Level 1. The Actor. You sit across a polished oak table at 8:30 on a Friday night. The cocktail menu in your hand feels heavier than it should. You aren't reading the drinks, you are calculating. If she leans toward ambition, you become the driven corporate strategist. If she values quiet sophistication, you soften your tone and reference an indie film you barely watched. You're a chameleon. Your mind runs a frantic spreadsheet protocol. Every laugh is calibrated to her pitch. Every story is trimmed of its sharp edges to build a version of yourself that is completely playable. And it works. She smiles, touches your wrist, and asks when she can see you again. You win the second date. But as you sign the bill, your stomach drops into your shoes. You walk back to your apartment at midnight, take off your jacket, and sit on the edge of an unmade bed, staring at a single sock on the carpet. You won her approval, but you lost yourself. Now comes the true penalty, the dread of maintenance. You have spent 3 hours building a custom cage, and now you have to live inside it for as long as she decides to stay. Level 2. The Experiment. At 25 years old, the exhaustion finally breaks you. You realize that keeping up the performance costs more emotional currency that you actually possess. So you decide to run a terrifying experiment. The next Friday, you sit across from another sophisticated date in a low-lit brass bistro. Instead of inflating your life or pitching an idealized future, you unbutton the cuffs of your navy suit to loosen control. When she asks about your ambitions, you state your simple truths directly. You speak mid-sentence with authentic, open-hand gestures about your desires for freedom and quiet experiences rather than fame or rigid corporate status. Rejection is instantaneous. The warm atmosphere collapses. She nods once, pulls her phone from her purse, and begins scrolling. A brick wall of silence settles across the table between you. In the past, your chest would have tightened with internal panic. You would have scrambled to repair the mood with a joke. Now you sit centered, watching the ice melt in your tumbler. 10 minutes later, you step out onto the wet sidewalk. The cold night air fills your lungs. Walking free under yellow streetlights, you realize failing as yourself is infinitely better than succeeding as a lie. Level 3. The Filter. That night changes everything. You realize that immediate rejection isn't a flaw in your character. It is a vital sorting mechanism. Truth acts as a harsh filter that quickly clears the room. On your next date, a woman scoffs when you mention you spend your weekend reading alone instead of networking at a trendy rooftop bar. She rolls her eyes with obvious disappointment. 6 months ago, you would have lied and claimed you usually go out. Now you look her directly in the eye and give a quiet nod. You don't defend your choices, you let her judgment sit. Awkward silences used to feel like suffocating. Now they feel like clean water. You realize that if someone dislikes your unpolished reality, keeping them around requires living a permanent lie. When she finds a polite excuse to leave after 40 minutes, you walk her to a yellow taxi. You don't ask for her number or offer a weak follow-up. You wish her well and mean it. You walk home, listening to the rhythmic tap of your boots against the pavement. You lost a second date, but you preserved your self-respect. That trade is a bargain every single time. Level 4. The immunity. By the fifth time this happens, something fundamental shifts inside your chest. The ancient fear of being disliked begins to evaporate, replaced by an immovable layer of emotional insulation. You stop asking yourself the desperate question that keeps you trapped for years. Does she like me? Instead, you start asking the only question that matters. Do I like who I am when I sit with her? When a date pulls back because you don't match her expected blueprint, your pulse doesn't race, your chest doesn't tighten, you recognize that simple incompatibility is not a personal failure. It takes 2 hours to fail a date by being yourself. It takes 2 years to ruin your life pretending to be someone else. You finally understand the brutal arithmetic of people pleasing. You stop editing your opinions for safety. If you dislike a popular film, you say so without hostility. If you have modest goals, you own them completely. You give people clarity. And when they walk away, you let them go without friction. You don't chase, you don't bargain, and you never adjust your true voice to win back an indifferent audience. Level 5. The Resonance. When you stop wearing a social mask, a strange paradox occurs. The crowd around you thins out fast, but the people who remain are genuine. You stop attracting actors when you stop acting. On a rainy Tuesday night, you sit in a small ramen shop across from a woman who isn't wearing a mask either. There is no performance here, no rehearsed lines, no strategic posturing. You share your actual thoughts unfiltered, slightly weird, and grounded in truth. She doesn't roll her eyes or glance at her phone. She leans forward, across the table, and smiles. There is no frantic spreadsheet running in your head. You don't have to remember which fictional persona you constructed 20 minutes ago, because you simply brought your real face. The conversation flows effortlessly, not because you force it, but because two people met without armor. The silence between sentences isn't tense or awkward. It feels like quiet rest. When you walk her home to her building porch, there is no strategic maneuvering or anxiety. Connection built on radical authenticity doesn't require a strategy. It simply exists on its own terms. Level 6. Quiet Sovereignty. You reach a stage when you no longer need the validation of a successful date to confirm your worth. You have established a quiet sovereignty over your own identity. You look back and see that the dates you lost were not defeats, they were mercies. Every early departure saved you months of living as a hollow stranger in your own skin. You can sit alone in a diner booth at 2 a.m., drink black coffee, and feel entirely whole. You don't stare at your phone to look busy, you just inhabit your own life. When someone enters your life now, they walk into a house that is already built. They don't get to choose the wallpaper or tear down the walls. They either like the place or leave. It takes quite a strength to let people walk away, but the peace you find on the other side of pleasing everyone is worth every awkward silence and every lost connection. Take off the mask, let them go. The ones who are meant for your real face will stay, and the rest were never yours to keep in the first place.